that organizing such a session is difficult, and Kasim is doing a good job by doing it for the whole year. So I wish him a very best to do that. So to start with the session, so today I'm going to talk a little bit deviated thing, right? So there will be a lot of sessions about data analytics, data science, how to find insights and all those stuff. But there will be a very limited interest even we show when we try to know that how a data is getting stored, what are the storage options that are available, right? So it is actually the basement, but sometimes I see that we tend to evaluate it lesser than other services. So I thought of doing that as a session. And when I thought of picking up a domain, I thought that okay, that domain I should have some experience, and also it should be very relevant for the attendees, so that a lot of people would benefit it. And that's why I thought banking as a domain. So first of all, let's see what is the problem in data storage aspect in banking sector. Okay, there will be a lot of touch points when we say it is a bank. Okay, so usually bank, we usually remember about the physical bank. Most of us, we go there and do some transactions and come back. That would be the most rememberable thing. But actually, if you see the transactions that we go and do in person, and then whatever the operations we do via the internet banking and mobile banking, right? And we also do some operations in ATM. We also personally we have some based behavior set in terms of using social media. Okay, so social media, I don't confine only Facebook, Instagram, or something like that. Even LinkedIn is also a uh, kind of learnable social media that the professionals are using, right? So that is also a very important platform for when we consider about data. So the next touch point is what are the KYC documents we have submitted to the banks itself, right? So that also a kind of data which we provide to bank, where we expect that the banks will store those data securely, right? So the first and foremost important thing would be ingestion of all those data, right, into some place. You can consider it as a landing zone, right? And then what happens is all the data services I just accumulated in one bucket. Like from raw data, we might do some transformations, and we may join 2 or 3 tables. We may join from external data and all those stuffs, and we do analytics as well. So this data services portion plays a key role when key operational analytics role. Okay, and all the data cannot be analyzed all the time. For example, my 5-year past transactions, even though if it has been analyzed, might not be useful for a very larger extent, right? So some way it need to be archived, right? The older data need to be archived uh, for the cost efficient storage and all those stuff. So when it comes to archiving, means moving the data from hot storage to cold storage. I'll come. I'll just tell what is called hot storage and cold storage. But when usually archiving a data happens is based on the audit and compliance. Usually the enterprises will have some auditory regulations that so and so data should not be should be present for a so longer period of time, right? I'm telling the reverse, right? There will be compliances which will say a user's data should be persisted for a so and so period of time. For example, in the company where I work, which is Kissflow, there is a compliance that even though the customer turns down his account, he goes away from Kissflow, his all data should be safely secured for a period of time. This is a complaints we are following. We at Kissflow is following, right? So similarly, banks also do have such compliances. For that purpose, they will not be able to store those data in hot storages. Okay, they need an optimal storage layer. So this transition happens, and next transition is deleting the data. Again, this also comes in terms of policies and regulations, where the policy or the regulation tells that you should not be saving a customer's data who is no more with you for after a period of time. Let's say it is 1 year or 6 months or so, right? So all these transitions require data moving from one part to another. That is a separate story. But apart from that, the data need to be stored in those particular layers, right? Why the storing is important is it should be easy to take those data outside from that storage system in that this particular in the respective particular layer. It should be ready to be analyzable, and also it should be easy to move from one system to another system, right? So also there is a very common thing, like why you need to migrate, why the data storage has to be moved to cloud, right? Nowadays, everybody are moving to cloud. The new systems, whatever is being implemented, they are being thinking to cloud. And a lot of enterprises, they are also building a lot of meetings and throwing up a lot of money to investigate why they have to move to cloud from their on-premise system, right? So there are three set of categories. One is cloud watchers, and then one is the second set of people, enterprises, are cloud beginners, and third set of enterprises are cloud explorers. Okay, so I'm just talking purely in terms of enterprise people, because uh, most enterprises are not yet being moved to cloud in a sophisticated manner, right? So, and when it is about banking, especially, they have a lot of lineage systems, right? Older systems. So nowadays, a lot of enterprises are in the bucket of cloud beginners, and few are in the cloud explorers. No more people are in cloud watchers, because it is already proven. So moving to cloud, moving to cloud is not a wrong option. That has been proved, as you all know. So now, in terms of when there are a lot of people in cloud beginners, they tend to see the useful options they can make after moving to cloud. One is, of course, they are seeing the cost benefits, right? Managing an on-premise data center versus having a cloud system, like it could be Azure or AWS or GCP, whatever the cloud it would be. How much the cost difference it costs, right? And second thing is, enterprises, when they grow across geography, they definitely need to go upon some regulations which has mandatory requirements, like they need to ensure the availability, right? If something goes wrong, what is the backup, right? So always they should be backup, and backup should be present in multiple geographical locations, so that if one geography goes down, the other geography gets up, and all those things happens. So they also think about the cost factors when setting up such geo replication category across globes, right? But when it is Azure or such a cloud sector, it's just about enabling a button. They don't need to have an infrastructure engineer, a data engineer to manage all those things, right? So this is again another bigger strategy. So I think I missed this portion a bit. So do you think that we are getting a lot of data getting generated in the past 2 decades? I hope most of you would have that mindset. Do you have any idea why such more data is being generated? You can chat, or you can just unmute. So it's because why there are more data is getting generated past 2 decades is there is a very simple analogy. Maybe more people, more data get generated. Of course, the population rise is happening all the time. Let's even take after World War II itself. But from 1950 to 1990 or 80, yeah, please.
Digital transfer actually using mobiles, IoT devices. Go to the internet and all that stuff.
Great. That's a nice point. So and some other has Sudhanshu has told that more apps and more internet usage. And I couldn't see the name, but someone told that IoT devices, more data getting generated, kind of thing. And Electia Selvan has told that digitalization improvement. Patel has told user tracking, gathering information, and all those things. Okay, beautiful. I think we have the answer here itself. There are two left and right sectors. One is technology scaling, and another one is use case scaling. Okay, so when it is technology scaling, here Sudhanshu has told that internet usage, and someone has told that IoT devices are getting generated, right? And when it comes to use case scaling, it is about digitalization improvement strategy by government, right? Or let's even take this COVID situation itself, right? So this is the use case, the COVID scenario, the COVID use case has pushed all of us to get digitalized, all the companies to get digitalized and to adopt more, right? Definitely just imagine that how much video calls we are doing, how much video call recordings we are making, how much digital way of conversing the meetings via transferring the image files or collaborating the Word document for specifications, requirements, and all those things, how much we are doing after this COVID section, right? So it is totally two things are possible. One is use case pushed. The best example would be COVID, and technology push. The technology push, we can take example of the leveraging of internet, the introduction of 2G to 3G to 4G, and making internet available to all the people, right? What Jio has made, they made that internet available, easy access of internet, rightly said Jyotish. So they made the internet to be accessible easily from not just the metro cities, but even the village people or the tribal people as well, right? I don't remember worrying about having network when I go to some trip or hill station nowadays and all, right? Because that much technology has been scaled up that much, so that as a users we are freely allowed to use internet. Means we are freely allowed to use the generate the data, right? So a lot of data generation happens on one side, and on the other side, the products itself are being moved, what to say, are being pressurized to rebuild themselves, right? So that's where this new terminology comes into picture, customer data platform, right? All the products are moving towards the customer's goal. It is not that I have a beautiful set of features, you use my product. It is no more than customers have so and so pain points, and using this product, all those pain points can be addressed and customers start to use. So this is where the products are getting generated. The product, I mean, even in banking, it is about using net banking or mobile app banking, right? So just imagine why most of us are very comfortable with the names could be personally opinion, so don't consider it as a kind of thing. So the government banks websites or the app are not that much user friendly when it comes to private banks, right? I think most of you would be on the same page, because these private banks, they do care more about building the product towards customer centric. How easy they build a net banking site or the mobile app. The more we use and more we use, the more the data we generate, and the more the data we generate, they tend to analyze the behavior of us, and they promote the respective service to us. It could be of a bank loan, it could be of a housing loan, it could be of a credit card improvising thing, whatever it would be, right? So it's all about give and take, and this data is the key thing that plays all the way at the bottom, right? So without data, nothing is possible, and it is not just storing the data. Those data should be easily accessible as well. Not easily in the sense, securely accessible as well, based on the compliance policy and all those things, right? So this is just a very simple example, and in this image, you could see that such a dashboard is already there. I don't say that this is all new and this is very latest thing and a kind of thing. Such a kind of thing is already there. As you could see here, when a bank employee opens a customer's profile page, Mitch Morris is here, and they have categorized him as gold, and what are all the applications he are using, what are the accounts he has, whether he has auto loan, what are all the policies he have taken, what are all the services he has enrolled, internet banking he has enrolled, phone banking he has enrolled, and what are the investments he have made. Everything is in one place. Customer as the center place, all the data is around, right? It is already there, but the thing is, before a decade or so, they need a law. There should be a team there where an analyst should be there. He need to capture all the requirements. There should be an IT team. They need to build this application, and there should be a training team. They need to train that application to the employees. Only then the employees start to use. And again, if there is any small change, again the loop goes back, right? It is a very tedious cycle for any small change to be made. And now the world is getting changed. The technology, for example, Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform itself, evangelizing or promoting services which allows the data availability for the target users as easy as possible. I'll show you the demo when I show you the Microsoft Purview demo in some time. Okay. Yeah, I think we covered this. So yeah, what are the options? I spoke about the hot storage, cold storage, and all those things, right? So would anyone like to share what is hot storage and cold storage? I hope many of you would have known about that, so that I can articulate upon the answer.
So basically, the hot storage is more like the time which the data will be available to the applications or customer users. So based on the how shortly the data can be available, hot storage and cold storage can be defined.
Okay. So what is cold storage would be?
Cold storage is more like it's not less costly than the hot storage, and you can data cannot be immediately available to the customer, but not as frequent as a hot storage. Hot storage is mostly because the data is frequently accessed by the application or the customer, and cold storage is more not you can say the not frequently accessed.
Nice, good point. So yeah, Harun also has told that hot means frequently accessed data, right? Let me take two real-time examples that just comes into my mind. Everybody has laptop, right? What is hot storage? What is cold storage in your laptop? Yes, Patel. Yeah, that's great point. Patel has answered it, right? So in our laptop, we have RAM and ROM, right? Both stores the data actually, but the OS the Intel or AMD 64, whatever it would be. The operating system would smartly will manage which data has to be fetched from cold storage and retain it in hot storage, which data has to be removed from hot storage and move it into cold storage, right? How intelligently it does, as a users, we will be happy to use the laptop. Laptop doesn't getting hanged or getting shut down or all those stuffs. We all know that, right? So that is one thing. As humans, we also tend to have our memory in hot storage and cold storage. Do you agree? Whatever we are operationalizing every day, we usually remember it in the hot storage, right? What is the upcoming task that myself or my team has to do on Monday? What is the project I have to submit, and what is its status, which I have to submit on next week Friday, right? These are all things that we usually remember on top of our mind, which should be instantly capturable. Or you can consider like this: if you ask what is your wife's name, what is your kid's name, we don't even know that we will be thinking and telling. Actually, we'll be thinking and telling, but it will be spontaneous because it is readily available. It will be readily available because we are frequently accessing, right? But what in case if someone asks you what is your mother's third brother's third son's name, right? You might remember it, but you would need some thought process to think, okay, his name is something like Patel or Harun or something like that would come, and then you would be responding, right? So this is a very simple explanation. I think we all could remember. The same thing happens when it comes to bank. So if we go and check from our mobile app, what is the current balance? It should tell me instantaneously that this is my balance, right? And whereas if I request raise a request to give me 5 years bank statement, right? It will be possible in the banks, in the bank app itself, but it would say that please wait for 2 minutes or 1 minute, right? It will go and fetch the data from cold storage or wherever it has been archived, even it might be archived. From there, it will be fetching, formulating, converting it as PDF, and then it will be giving it as a downloadable format, right? So likewise, the data storage strategy has to be very thoughtful when such enterprises, when an application is built for enterprises, especially in terms of banking domain. So the content would be readable, I guess, and a lot of examples also we spoke. I'll directly go to Archive, right? So cold also, it is a cheap storage, but what is Archive then? You can consider that cold, very cold, something like that, okay? So there might be some data which the bank need to persist for some reason. As I told earlier, it could be for some policies or regulations, right? So it should be stored, and if I search it, it should also be listable, right? So you could see in some police crime movies, they will be searching like criminal data of 1990 to 1995, right? Even that will be searchable and it will be listable as well, right? So in this case, the data will not be stored, but what are all data available for the past 50 years? The list of items alone, it will be maintained, right? And that's what I have mentioned here. The data will not be readable, but it will be listable. Okay. Even if let's consider an example, library, right? If I get into library, I will be able to see 50 years before Hindu newspaper, where it will be. That's all. It will be listed. Like if you go and ask librarian, say in the 3rd floor, if you go into the fourth stack, and in the 3rd row, you will be able to find, right? Like that, the data should be listable, but it might not be easily readable, right? So all those data can be moved to the archive storage. And of course, delete, of course, it is needed based on, again, for the compliance reason. If it is, if the data should not be retained at any cost, it should be purged completely. Even some backup copies might be there, and some cached data might be there in some pipeline. All those data has to be deleted, right? So this is one thing. And next thing is how to migrate. Okay, we have different options. We have the data storage strategy to move the data from into different buckets. How to migrate? Of course, there are direct options. If we are using SQL Server, Azure SQL Server is there, where you can just lift and shift. And if there is, if you are using other third-party vendors like Oracle, Teradata, or MongoDB, whatever it may be, there are instances for all those Oracle, Teradata, and MongoDB. It will be a kind of PaaS solution where you can spin up such an instance and you can move data from one place, from your on-premise to cloud. And of course, files are very important when it comes to bank, because whatever the challan we give, and even if we are transferring money from our internet bank, there will be a challan generated at the back end, and it will be stored as a file. It could be a very less storing format, Pathway or some kind of format, but an image will be generated for each and every transaction we generate, and it will be stored. Okay. From one of my friend, I came to know that he's actually a data engineer, and they went for a bank to drill out how they are storing the data, why the cost billing, the cost is rising steeply for the past 5 to 10 years. Like that, the chief data officer of that bank has a question, and the team, my friend's team went there, who is a data engineer, and they found that almost 75% of data which are not used past 8 months, it is present in cold storage, sorry, in hot storage. Okay, and again, some 50% of data, it has been not used for more than 5 years. Okay, and that is again present in hot storage. So just imagine that without even using, if you have so much of data in hot storage, just imagine the billing, how much the billing would be coming, right? And why they are not moving? That is the second question. The CDO, chief data officers, are telling that I don't know what data it is actually, because people get changed frequently in banks, right? That is a natural thing. So one person has to give proper KT to the next person, and then he has to leave. But for some reason, it has been transitioning so much, and the data is getting dumped in the storage, and the new person doesn't know that what data present in it, right? So this is the actual reason of data getting accumulated so much, and they were also not able to immediately frame some solution to move the data, which data has to be moved from one system to another system, right? So this is where the new solutions, new governance solutions are coming to picture, where they call it as data catalog. Again, I'll show it when I show you the demo of Microsoft Purview. So that would solve it. But again, that is not a simple thing, but tools are getting emerged, and enterprises are slowly getting adopted into. So coming back, files, yes, of course, there will be a lot of files generated in banks, and those files can be moved to Azure Data Lake or Azure Blob, as you know. Fine. So now let's consider the data has been moved to cloud. How can I manage, right? The managing was the problem that existed before, right? I have the data, I get the data, I store the data in cloud. Okay. Now, how can I manage? Manage was the problem previously. I don't know what data is present where, and who has access to what data, and all those kind of stuff, right? So that's where this data governance comes into picture. Data governance means simply setting internal standards or data policies that apply to how data is gathered, stored, processed, and disposed of, from the data capturing till data deletion, there should be some standards. Based on those standards, the operations need to be implemented, and everything should be findable as well. Okay, so this is a small example. For example, if you are opening a table in Microsoft SQL Server, actually that table might have come from via different way, right? Directly, the data might be injected into that Microsoft SQL Server, or there will be a data lake and there will be some ETL happening, and then the data would have come to the SQL database, right? So there are different options. When Microsoft Purview is integrated into the data estate of banks, it will do a complete lineage of across all the services. That's the services, I mean databases, ETL tools, visualization tools, all those things, and it will create beautiful maps, something like this. And again, in movies, in crime movies, you would see the policeman would be having a map where he will be placing different touch points or different suspects and different events, and he will there will be some thread kind of thing to pin from one point to another point, right? That is a very simple example of lineage, which we see in a lot of movies, and the same thing you can see here as well. The end table PL2 is present in a SQL DB that has been pipelined via Azure Data Factory from another SQL DB that has been pipelined via Azure Data Factory from another SQL DB. So there will be both pull and push kind of scenarios when we have a data pipeline, and that's where we'll be able to see the data lineage completely, right? So just imagine if you are a chief data officer or you are a chief marketing officer, and you are going to create some campaign based on some data. Okay, for example, 50% of users have not started using internet banking. If that is the statement that has been presented to you to prepare campaign, you might be worrying that this number is accurate or not. How can I relay this number, right? So in that case, that person would that person might not be even technical. He can simply go into this Purview and click on this the data set, and he can see the history, right? From where it is being emerged, whether the source of truth is correct, whether the pipeline is valid, who has did that, can it have a meeting with that? He can think all about that, right? So that's the beauty of thing. And next thing is compliance, right? Compliance also comes into governance as an important factor. So as I told earlier, different geography have different compliances, and best example would be GDPR, as most of us would have heard about that. So there will be certain policies ahead that adhere to GDPR, right? It might be telling that for a very secure data, export option should not be there. Nobody should be able to export the data out of from a system, out of that particular system. And there might be some policy that the data should be stored only within the Europe geography. It should not go outside of Europe, something like that. So this Azure Compliance Manager, what it does is we can set up the policies, we can create some policies, and once those policies are created, it will do the mapping across different services of data estate, and it will beautifully analyze what all has been breached and what is the action item need to be done, right? So simply say the work of a set of people who are compliance expert will be able to be done by the compliance manager itself, right? Although I totally agree that any tool is not bug free, we can rely this compliance manager to some extent, right? To 75% or 80%, whatever the percent may be. But it is doing its job. Instead of doing nothing, via tools, we are able to do some movement, so do some progressive movement, right? So I'll move to next. Okay, I have a proper data storage system. I have a proper data management system. Now, how can I leverage this data to different people, to the respective people to analyze on top of that, right? That is the next thing, which the industry calls it as activating your data, right? Banks do store a lot of data, but unless it is activated, there is of no use, right? The same thing goes for our career improvements as well. We tend to learn a lot of things, but somewhere we should apply it. Either it could be taking some sessions or applying those knowledge in our into our office work as well. Only then the knowledge we acquire has some meaning, right? So the same thing here. When you when this analytics comes into picture, there will be two different categories. One is BI tools, SQL reporting, SQL querying, and all those side. And the other thing is data science, machine learning workloads, and all things. When you connect Azure Synapse Analytics with your data estate, you can have independent pools, right? Independent compute systems that doesn't affect one between other, right? A separate compute pool for BI tools, a separate compute pool for data science and machine learning workloads. And of course, not only this, when you connect with Azure Synapse Analytics, you can also integrate data from other data sources as well, right? For example, social media is a totally different system that doesn't come into the banking's data estate as well. So you can pull the data from social media and store it somewhere. So yeah, of course, why the data is being analyzed? Smart banks analyze the data smartly, and they define the customers' behaviors, and based on that, they upsell to customers, or they also take some strategic decisions which would be needed 5 years later, right? All those banks which have clearly articulated that digitalization is going to rock in the next decade, they are survived, and they are in the top positions, definitely, right? So that's what I mean about this strategic decisions, how the world is moving towards. Even while I joined my company, I didn't have net banking access, and till 4 years or 3 years, I didn't even signed up as well, because I don't have a need, right? But now, just imagine, without net banking, without mobile app banking, no one can survive, right? Sorry, not survive. No one can be can have free transactions, right? So that's the strategical trend which has been analyzed, which will be analyzed with the help of data. So everything is fine. Okay, very good. But what is the real challenge? We have different touch points. We are able to get all the data into one single landing place. Okay. From there, we have to move the data to different systems, different storage systems, securely, and also what to say, it should be cost efficient as well, right? Moving data from one system to another system also takes a lot of cost, lot of money, right? So this is a real challenging thing, and it is very difficult to cover very deep about this. Maybe we can have a part 2 session of this. What the bank usually the banks are doing, what are the best practices they are doing to have this medallion architecture. They call it as medallion architecture: bronze, silver, and gold. So all the touch point, from all the touch points, the raw data will be moved into the landing place, which usually they call as bronze, and then some filterings and some aggregations happens. Sorry, some cleaning happens. It has been moved to silver section, and from there the aggregated data moves to a another layer, which they called as gold section. Okay, and that gold category, we can imagine something like the hot storage. Okay, which will be directly connected with the BI tools, analytics tools, and all those things. So yeah, this is really a challengeable thing, and that's where again many new tools comes into picture under the category of data observability. Where the data observability tools main scenario is, it will be tracking all the pipelines and the storage layers. Wherever is there any job failure happens, is the data intact, whether all the data from source 1 to source 2 is moved, or is there any data loss has happened, right? And all those things, those data observability tools gets into starts monitoring and gives the data engineers as insights. Okay, so yeah, and also I need to tell about this the new Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform itself. Previously, operational database, analytics, and data governance were siloed. Everything runs on its own. But now, after this Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform, still the services are different, but they can talk between each other very legibly. For example, if you take Azure Cosmos DB, you can store NoSQL data in it, and if you just enable Synapse Link, there is a feature called Synapse Link. The stored NoSQL data will be reconverted and stored in analytics ready data. Okay, the storage pattern will totally different. It will store as row-wise data in its natural storage. When you enable Synapse Link, it will again fetch that row-wise data and store it in column-wise data and have a separate copy. So that's where the Azure services are being redesigned so that it can talk between each other so easily. And in a single tree structure or in a single manageable environment, every services will be able to be monitored and governed easily. Okay. So I'll quickly jump into a demo. How much time I have? Okay, I have 15 minutes of time. So I already have created Microsoft Purview service, and I have injected some sample data of my own. Okay, so this is Microsoft Purview. You can simply imagine that Microsoft Purview will not capture your original data. Okay, it will just capture the metadata of all the surveys, and it will just show you in a dashboard kind of view. It will be a tool where it will be easily manageable. That's all. Okay, so I'll quickly show you the assets which I have already fetched into Azure Microsoft Purview. So I have Cosmos DB, Azure Data Lake, Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Server, one storage account, one Synapse Analytics account, and 3 Power BI workspaces, and even Snowflake database as well. So this is totally out of Azure ecosystem, right? So, and I can group it by collections. This collection could be like based on your business domain, procurement domain, sales domain, marketing domain. You can collect, you can group in that way, or in the other way, you can group it by geography: Europe, Asia Pacific, Australia, Latin America, and something like that, right? So consider this as a data estate where you see all your data services in one place. It might be in Azure, or even it might not be. It might be a third party, something like Snowflake or a Hadoop system, or anything could be, right? A chief data officer will be able to see all the data in one place. He'll be able to manage all the data in one place. When I talk about manage, I'm not talking about deleting. Deleting will not be possible within Azure Purview, but you can share one set of data to a specific user, and you can also manage the share as well. If the chief data officer determines to delete that share, he can do it in a single click. He need not rely on the data engineer to disable the share, to run some scripts or all those things, right? So this is in 2, so I don't have anything created so far, but you can do the data sharing as well across all these different assets. Okay, so this is one thing. Can I proceed, or is there any questions on top of your mind before I step into the demo to the next step? Okay, I'll proceed to the demo. So I just told that you have all these services available, kind of thing, right? And in one of the previous slide, I told that data is available, but a bank employee, how can he search the data that is not present in the system, that is not present in the dashboard, right? So let me just open up the first slide, which is correct. So consider that mobile banking is being introduced. Okay, which is not present over here in this dashboard, in this application. But that bank employee would need to know that how many people have adopted to mobile banking, or whether this particular customer have adopted to mobile banking. Is it possible without being present in this dashboard? It is not possible, right? Because that bank employee doesn't have access to that particular data. So here, how that gap can be leveraged? How a business user can be leveraged to access the bank's data? Let's consider that it is in the boundary. I'm not talking about an external user. I'm talking about a bank employee who is a data analyst, but he need to access to the respective data in a very fairly simple manner, right? So that's where in Microsoft Purview, you can define glossaries, right? Can someone unmute and tell what is a glossary? Just a general English meaning. What is meant by glossary? We would have came across while we were in schools and colleges, dictionary, glossary, and even in books, you will be able to see the glossary, right? So can someone share what is glossary generally?
Glossary is nothing but it's at the end of the dictionary we would find some of the abbreviations are like which are most used words.
Great, that's one thing. Some of the abbreviations you told, that's a nice point. Can someone else try? Give a try.
Hello.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a brief explanation of the terms used in the overall book or some tutorial.
When it is about brief explanation, what is the difference between glossary and dictionary? Dictionary also it's the explanation. There is a subtle difference. Just trying to. Okay, so
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, so glossary means it is basically an abbreviation with their definitions. Like it will brief you with the word.
Okay. Okay.
Hello.
So, yeah.
Glossary is nothing but an alphabetical a listing of the difficult word.
Okay. That's also correct. Yeah. Okay, let me tell this. Dictionary, what it will have is, it will directly tell its meaning. If there is a word, this is the meaning. It will directly coin. But glossary, you'll find a little bit of difference. Like as Mohammed told, abbreviation, right? As data engineers, they will easily use the term ADF. They know that it is Azure Data Factory. They will use the term ADB. They know that it is Azure Databricks. But consider a business user or a CEO or a Scrum Master, even a software engineer. They don't know about that, right? So there are few terms which will be understandable by a set of people, but the same term might have different meanings as well. All those such a kind of definitions will be in the glossary, right? So now let us come into our technical world. There is a table called as employee table, and one of its column name is _ EID. Okay. Whether a business user or a salesperson or an analyst who haven't created the table will be able to understand what is that EID _ EID. No, right? So the data engineer know that it is employee ID, and he has created that naming standard due to some artifacts or the code regulations which he has in the team. But the real activation of data happens only when the target user starts to use the data, right? So when the target user searches data like employee ID, it should go and fetch the _ EID and come, right? So the language of data engineers will be different. The language of the real business users who access the data will be different, right? And this glossary matches that gap, actually, if you want to say. So so we can create a new glossary term here, and you can name that. The glossary term is nothing but employee ID, and this employee ID has to be associated with so and so tables. If someone searches from searches as employee ID, it should get it should show the tables employees.csv and from Azure Data Storage, and address table from Azure SQL table, right? It is about creating one step. You just need to create a glossary term, and for the glossary term, you have to set up the source locations, and that's it. Remaining, Purview will take care. Now, let me go and search here. Employee ID. See, as you see, can you find it over here? It is showing me the glossary itself, and it is showing me the actual file also, right? It is you can imagine something like a mini Google search for your data estate. Okay, now let me just type enter so that let us we can have a brief search result. So as you could see, all the search results that relate with employee ID, I'm able to see here. There is a table called employee.csv in Azure Data Lake. There is a table called address in Azure SQL, and even it has split up the word as ID and employee separately. There is a column called ID in items table, and so on. So all the related tables across different storage system. It could be a Snowflake, it could be of Azure Data Lake, or it could be of Azure Cosmos DB, or it could be of Azure SQL, or even yeah, that's it. So as of my example. And if there are a lot of search results, you can also simply filter it out with the help of this thing. If you need a database, you can select this. If you need a file, you can select this, and it will be populating. Mostly files who will be accessing. People like Kasim who are AI experts, right? So they would be doing the machine learning workloads where mostly they will be dealing with the files, not the data, might not be the database all the time. But who will use the database mostly? The data analysts or BI developers, and even software developers and all those, right? So this is one thing. And even based on employee ID, some dashboards also might be present in Power BI, and those also will be resulted. Right now I don't have any, so it is showing something. Let's see if I have any report. Yeah, I have one report. I don't know when I have created. Oh, 8 months ago. So I'll be able to think about a CEO who don't have the patience to see the data into database and all those things. You can go and easily click on the report. And now let me ask you a question. I have all these results. Now, will I be able to download this data? Just give a guess. Will I be able to download the data from here?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? And of course, Mohammed, sorry, Syed, can you brief why it should be possible, or why it is yes?
Because it is it would be helpful when means it is showing the fully actual path of that particular database as well, where it is residing, and we can easily want to compare or do some analysis for the particular field, or
Okay.
we can do that.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Let us try whether we're able to download this file or not. Now I see that I need this employee.csv. I go there, and as you could see, we will not be able to download the data. Okay, we will be able to see all the details about this data asset. Okay, but I'll not be able to download the data because it is a kind of security concern, right? If you just imagine in a bank, if all the data is being made available, easily accessible to all the employees, then what happens? Our KYC data, if a bank clerk is able to download that, it is not a right thing, right? Someone can easily go and search Aadhaar card, and he'll be able to see all the Aadhaar card, or he can see the drive. And if he's able to easily download that, it is a total data breach, right? So what Purview does is it helps you to find the data easily. And if you see that this data is needed for you, you can internally go and check with the respective owners. Of course, there will be a section called contacts here. Okay, and this contacts is nothing but who is the owner of this data? Whom can you approach and get this data? So that is the leverage Purview is doing. It is not directly allowing the data to be downloaded. It is allowing the business users to find their data easily. That is the bridge it is having. Am I clear on this perspective?
If you are a super user in this case, so you're not allowed what super user has rights or something.
If I am a Dinesh Kumar is a super user, I will go directly to this I have this storage link, right? I can directly go and open that URL and I can download it, right? So that's the gap between. Sorry, that's not the gap. That's the security layer that sits between the data assets and the business users. Okay. So next, let me just show you an example of lineage. I just showed you that any data asset, it will show the source and the destination, right? Let us go on. I think I have it here itself. Yeah. Now let me just open up a dashboard, okay, which is already been connected with the Purview, that workspace. And if I go into this lineage, it will be telling me that from which data set this dashboard has been created, and this particular data set from which source it has been created. I might have created this by uploading a CSV, so that's why it is not showing me any other source path, but it will be showing all the source where this particular from which source this data set is created. And I can simply assure that, okay, if this is the source, this is the person is managing the data, then it can be reliable. Or in case of any doubts, you can openly go and contact that particular person and proceed with the action item. Okay, so yeah, this is one thing. And of course, consider a chief data officer, and in a bank, in an enterprise, definitely there will be a lot of data storage systems would be in place. Storage system, ETL tool, analytics tool, BI tool, all those things, right? So he might be worried. Every data officer worries that how much data actually we have, whether all the data are secure, whether is there any breach, and all those confusions will be there. So once in a Purview, once all those data assets are connected in Data Estate Insights, it will automatically show you a set of metrics, something like this. So how much assets has been curated, how much assets the owner has been assigned, and owner is not assigned. I showed you previously that for a set of thing, owner has been assigned, and and the people will be able to connect, right? So if that is that thing, if a chief data officer feels important, he'll be able to know this very easily. And of course, it also classifies the data with respect to sensitive data and non-sensitive data, right? Sensitive data, as we all know that the Aadhaar number, social security number when it comes to USA and all those things, right? So you can clarify, you can say if your data asset has all those sensitive data, then it will automatically tell that how much sensitive data is there, and how much is being classified, how much is out of date, and all those different kind of metrics. Okay. Yeah, of course, in data policy, you can create policies that so and so data has to be retained only for this much period of time. Once it has been pushed, once it has been started to store, and if there is some breaches, it will automatically throw some error. But I don't have any policy created. So, but yeah, if we want to go into deep, maybe we can have a part 2. But this is the overall scope of how the data storage systems plays a very key role in an enterprise architecture. Okay, so I'll again go back to the previous slide. Yeah, and I just coined up a set of resources which help me while I face this in my work to get the knowledge quickly. And thanks a lot for this opportunity, Kasim, and the audience for your patience